Welcome to the Life with Grief podcast. I'm your host, grief and transformational life coach and fellow griever, Tara Accardo. A warm welcome back to the Life with Grief podcast. I'm your host, Tara Accardo, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Matt Jacobson, who is the co-founder and CEO of Lifebooks. Matt began working in the grief space after losing his father to esophageal cancer at just 21 years old. After taking over his family's mattress store and navigating multiple other trials and tribulations, which you will hear all about in this episode today, this sparked something within Matt, and he wanted to ensure that his father's memory and legacy wouldn't fade with time. And this inspired and led Matt to create Lifebooks so he and his family could always treasure his father's memory. We have such an inspiring and enlightening conversation here to share with you. I'm so excited to introduce you to Matt, his story, and Lifebooks. And fun fact, I am actually working on my very own Lifebook for my dad right now as we speak. I hope to do one for my mom one day as well. Truly, what he has created here, I support fully. But moreover, his story is just so touching, and the way that he has found such a just beautiful perspective on life and the growth that he has had personally since losing his dad is just so awesome and refreshing to hear. And I know you are going to feel so inspired coming out of this episode today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Matt, welcome to the Life with Grief podcast. I am very honored to have you here today, and I am so glad we were able to connect through Instagram, which is where I find so many of the wonderful people that I have on the podcast here. And I'm so excited to have you share a little about yourself and your story and this amazing product that you are bringing to life right now. But just a warm welcome to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tara. I'm so grateful to be here. It's been a long time to get this startup going, but in honor of my dad, it's what's kept me in pursuit of creating a timeless hardbound memorial book, a book that's created on an online platform with family and friends. And I'm just excited for the beta launch and to share it with everyone who would love a new tool in their life to kind of aid in combating grief and loss.
Awesome. So exciting. Okay, well, we're definitely going to get into this project of yours, but just so everyone can get to know you a little bit better, just tell us a little bit about who Matt is. And I always like to start off by saying, what do you like to do for fun, or, just anything you want to share about yourself. And we will definitely get into your journey of loss, as you mentioned. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about you.
I'm a local Southern California raised kid, went to San Diego State. Love snowboarding. I love hanging out with my dog, and I more so just love being around my family and friends more than anything. And that's just who I am, is just trying to enjoy my time here with family and friends, and along the way bring my dog.
I love it. Your fur baby.
For my dog.
Yeah, we're big dog lovers here on this podcast. Awesome. So talk to me just a little bit about your journey with grief and loss, and, again, however much you are comfortable sharing. But I think there's definitely a lot of people here that can empathize with your story and father loss, certainly. So I just want to open the floor to you.
Yeah. So the loss happened. It was 2020. I was studying abroad in Spain, and in 2017, my dad had gotten diagnosed with esophageal cancer. And when I had gone to Spain, his cancer had gone into remission. And I didn't know before I left, he wasn't feeling too well. He kind of put on a show before I left. We went on a hike, and he had walked like 5 miles, no sweat, just all the strength he mustered had to have been in that hike, because when I went to Europe, only 3 weeks later, I got the call that he had been admitted into the hospital. He made sure that I left. He made sure that I had that experience. He made sure that I kind of took that step. And that was huge for me. But when I got back, unfortunately, he had already passed. Kind of greeted by my siblings at the airport. It was kind of an unspoken confirmation what had happened. And taking a dead-eye flight, 24 hours of travel from East Spain back to California, to walk into that was emotionally just reckoning. My dad owned a mattress store. We grew up working at the mattress store. only the day after, I was in the mattress store selling beds in his shoes, having to take care of the family and take care of the needs. I have two older siblings. My oldest brother has a family, kids, and another business out in Arizona, so he couldn't stick around. My other brother, my middle brother, he had done sales training, but didn't know too much about business. So we kind of got handed the keys and we're told to hold it down in some way. And while having to finish school and the business, and then only a few weeks later, our business was served an audit by the state. So we had that to tackle. And things just kept compounding. And in it all, I had thought one night driving home how big the shoes were to fill that my dad had by himself for 30 years, no help. Didn't complain. I never knew about any of the issues that came home, that would have come home. He kept them at work. It was a big deal. And I thought that my nephew and my niece, I was thinking on the drive, how are they going to grow up to know who my dad was? I have a grandfather and he died before I was born. And I grew up to only know him by a few memories, but nothing really of significance to share with the next generation. It wouldn't be right because they're not really memories that I can quite recall. They're just stories that were told to me in some fashion. But my grandfather's memory, who passed before I was born, it's unlikely to see in one or two generations. To me, his memory will die as well. And I thought about my dad and how significant he is to me, how huge of an impact he's played in my entire family, and holding it down and making sure we had what we needed to go when he was gone. How would my nephew and niece know his legacy, know his memory, know his story? So I thought, I got to write a book about this guy. I got to write a book about everything he's taught me, everything he has done for me. But I was held back by the thought that I wasn't a great writer.
No pressure to put on yourself. My God, as if you're not going through enough right now. Let me just write a book on top.
Write a book. Literally, I'm like, let me write a book. Let me just write everything about you. But then I thought, I don't know everything about my dad because he was a pretty private guy. His relationship was with me, and his relationship with my brother was with him, and his relationship with his brothers were with them. It was he's a classic boomer, just very orthodox. The relationship was very much so respected and in facets. For that reason, I thought it would be great if, like a Google Doc, I'd have my brother write, I'd have my aunt write, I'd have his brothers write. Everyone could share their stories about my dad. And as I researched online, I saw nothing like this of any sort. In fact, there wasn't much when I looked online for things to do after death in any collaborative manner. There are keepsakes. There are pre-death books like Storyworth, where you share a story. But post-mortem, what do you do after? How does everyone come together? How is something shared? Without effort, you get what you put in. Without an effort to share this legacy, we won't get anything. And in terms of Lifebooks, now where Lifebook came along from the idea, I have a cousin who's very intelligent. He worked for the Salk Institute, been on a few TED Talks, but unfortunately, he's been crippled by bad health. His heart exploded when he was 29, so he's on a lot every day just to get by. But he's brilliant. He's very gifted. So I called my brilliant, gifted cousin, and I pitched him this idea. And for the first year and a half, we worked on the patent to get the patent written. And we worked with, he lives in San Francisco and he has some friends in the tech community. So we worked with some Silicon Valley lawyers, as he would say, but to get the patent pushed and proved, and we got approved in 2023. So we're really excited. The book creative itself is an original idea to formulate the books, to bring an unlimited amount of photos and text and contributions, unlimited, into format and proof, and set the text so it fits in an acute 100-page book. So the entire bookmaking process is automated so that the individuals can focus on the story. But with John, working with him, the plan was that we would work together in developing it as well, post the patent. As we began working in development for about a year and a half, I was working into manufacturing, which is another hurdle because books themselves tend to break over time. A lot of them have glued bindings, and I'll get into that in a bit, but finding the correct manufacturer was absolutely necessary for this to be a book that would be generational.
Yeah.
Now, John, unfortunately, was plagued with bad health, and I had to take, after getting manufacturing, marketing, and pretty much all the gears set, development wasn't there. And in 2024, in January, I got a new partner, Taylor, and we've been running away with it as of now. And we're really excited because the beta is going to be up as of this weekend and ready for family members to get in and begin contributing and sharing photos and stories. The idea, again, came to me because I thought, how could I share the stories with my nephew and niece? How could my dad's memory live past my life? And that's what brought me to Lifebooks. So a lot of partners, a lot of just difficult battles, graduating, that was the whole thing, running the family mattress store, dealing with the audit, all of the above. As you know, nothing is gained without climbing those hills. So more mountains to climb, but I'm excited to see the views.
Yeah, you are just getting started. Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, very first question I have to ask you, what is your dad's name?
Matt.
Yeah, it's Matt too.
I'm a
Oh,
junior.
you're a junior. I love it. My husband is a John Jr. I appreciate that. Because you're talking about your dad. And so just to back up, I definitely want to get more into the book and everything, but really just take a moment to honor your dad because he sounds just incredible. And actually there's certain aspects of him that remind me a little bit of my dad, little bit private, but incredibly hard worker, like wouldn't want to burden you, it sounds like, with any stressors that you didn't need to worry about. Like they just carried themselves so beautifully, and I really appreciate that about your wonderful dad, Matt. And also I remember us talking about this. I also really empathize with your story as far as the type of cancer your dad had, because my mom also had esophageal cancer, and it is a brutal type of cancer. Can I ask you, uh, what was that journey like as far as like from diagnosis to his passing? Was it particularly long, or like what did that look
It
like?
was he was diagnosed stage 3, which was really scary because we suspected only 6 months with him because it had already metastasized to his liver. Thankful to God, immunotherapy really helped.
Real quick interruption here, and then we'll get back to this episode. If you're someone who is experiencing some form of loss and are trying to navigate the complexities of grief, which you likely are in some capacity if you've stumbled upon this podcast, then this message is for you. If you haven't heard about my Life with Grief membership and community yet, this is truly something you need to check out. This membership is here to guide you into living a deeper, more meaningful, and full life after experiencing loss. Who doesn't want that, right? I created this membership because I know what it's like to navigate and cope with grief on a daily basis, and I know the tools and support it takes to do this effectively. I've done the work myself, and I've coached people just like you to do the same. It comes down to having impactful, effective resources and tools at your disposal, having the right support around you from people who can understand and empathize with your grief, and having encouragement and inspiration around you consistently to not only elicit and spark change, but to keep it and keep the positive momentum going. Check out the details linked in the description, and I hope to see you in there.
Immunotherapy is a therapeutic solution where they take your white blood cells and then turn them into cancer-fighting cells to fight the cancer. It works really well in individuals who don't have a lot of cancer markers, which are cancer-fighting cells. Coincidentally, or ironically, of course, he didn't have many cancer-fighting cells, so the immunotherapy worked really well. So because it responded well after treatments of chemo and then the immunotherapy. We got 2 years, and I had no clue. I had no clue. And he for sure knew. He had to have known. He had to have
That
known.
whole time you didn't know?
Well, the 2 years I knew, but I didn't know before leaving to Europe that it had
God.
came back. I had no clue.
Oh, okay,
In
right,
those
right.
2 years, yeah, I knew. My dad was, going to the gym, fighting it tough, losing his hair, just going for it, just trying to fight death. And yeah, you gain nothing but courage and admiration, respect from just fighting death. Cancer is a disease. It's a scary disease, and it's really sad because it takes away who they are.
Yeah,
They shed layers of who they are, and they don't want to be remembered by like that. And for that
that's
reason, I think my dad knew to send me.
yeah.
He wanted me to remember him from the hike right before.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to say that. I've never heard someone express it like that. I love that so much. And like, yeah, I've definitely talked about that on this podcast before. It's not just the death. There's that sort of anticipatory grief. There's just again, like you said, they're losing their physical strength or physical aspects of themselves, which is already very traumatizing and scarring and hard to watch. But then like, yeah, little parts of their personality too. Maybe they're emotionally not the same. We can only as bystanders, if you will, like just as loved ones watching them like endure this. I mean, it can feel very hopeless, like because there's really only so much we can do, and I can't even imagine being in their shoes and knowing this is all going on, and especially for a long prolonged period of time. And both of my parents had varying but also somewhat prolonged, you know, journeys with their cancer as well. And you just are in this crazy limbo for, this unknown period of time. And it's like, it's
It's
exhausting.
yeah, it's sad. Yeah,
Humbling.
the person that's leaving you also knows, and they're losing themselves too along the way. I would think the personality that only comes from the human reaction of losing your hair, losing your muscle, losing your mobility. It's fatiguing, it's sad, and you want nothing but for them to just be healthy. It's really sick, and even worse, that's afterwards. You deal with loss, and then a secondary loss, and there's the absence where the family doesn't talk, and there's the whole other boat of things that come along with the experience of death. And I think the other thing that I found, America as a whole, culturally, we don't treat death how other cultures do.
So true.
Um, I would even lean towards saying uh, this. It seems very transactional, uh, and that transactional nature seems almost systematic. And systems are in place with intention. You could only think that all they'd want you to be is another worker bee that loses culture, loses family, loses legacy, loses a sense of pride for who you came from and what you were. And to cut off those ties as fast as you can is the easiest way to get you back into the being a worker bee. And no, you have a 30-45 minute ceremony that's supposed to be the celebration for an entire life.
Yeah.
It The irony, and for that celebration it costs $10,000 in California for
Yeah.
45 minutes is criminal. And I think that people in the funeral industry have been insulated from new technologies and new ideas that will expand the grief and the bereavement programs to allow families to feel more lineage and more legacy and more just involvement with each other, for it to not being such a disparaging event, but for it to be a connecting event.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
those cultures will die. Uh, they'll take time. It's a very insulated community. I hope Lifebooks can be one tool of many to come that involve and bring extra support outside a traditional, program, because the one thing missing is something that'll never go missing. And that's, you know, a timeless, excuse me,
Stories.
hardbound book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the way in which it's presented, right? But I mean, you touch on such a beautiful point here in that, it's there's so much after the loss and after the death and everything that really hits you hard. And first of all, you bring up a great point as far as like work goes, right? We only get, at least in the US, we only get so many days for bereavement. And then even if people are understanding, or even if people are emailing you and be like, hey, I know you're going through something right now. Just want to make sure this is on your radar, whatever it is. Like I've worked in corporate, like
Yeah,
anyway,
corporate.
this could happen in a million different areas, but I've been there myself. And even if people were understanding, I still felt that external pressure to like get back to work. I was working in a digital marketing agency at the time that both of my parents died. And everyone was very understanding and it was like all good and everything. And there wasn't even really talk so much about like my bereavement days. They literally were just like, take whatever time you need, which I really appreciated. But it was interesting. At the same time, I almost found work sort of helpful. Like it was almost like I couldn't live in my grief 24/7. Like I almost needed sort of like a distraction in a way. But even outside of that, looking back on it now, I was worried about letting people down. I was worried that I would fall behind and it would only make it worse for myself and I'd be even more underwater than I already was. So there is so much more conversation to be had about, okay, what happens after? And you nailed it. There's secondary losses. There's, maybe people kind of crumble under the pressure, or they check out on you, or, even when people mean well, they'll be checking on you in those weeks or, days or weeks, maybe months if you're lucky after someone dies, but inevitably that can fall away and that will unfortunately fall off for most people, but you're still there and you're still grieving. It's very much alive for you. So I think what you've created is such a beautiful way to not only just have a literal tangible thing here that people can quite literally pass down for generations, but there's just a coming togetherness that it encourages. And and it's very digital. I mean, it's very like friendly to our digital age where we all are online and doing all the things, but it's collaborative in a time where you need that collaboration. But I would imagine too, like, even if you were to do a life book, like years after someone actually died, like, still, what a great way to bring people together. Or, maybe you didn't do it immediately after the death, or maybe it was too painful or something. Like, there's no time limit on any of this, right? Like, you can do this
There,
whenever.
there's no time constraint. It's always available for, I would even say that people would be, the writing, you're right, there is a period of time after loss. And even I, when starting Lifebooks, I would think, am I ready to write yet?
Yeah.
I think there's a point where you're ready to write. You're ready to
Mhm.
share the stories. You want to, you're excited to. And that's the moment that you want to capture. That's enthusiasm you want to capture within the stories because it's a celebration of life. It's not a obituary book.
It's
It's
not meant to be a sad thing. Like, sure, you could feel sad, but it's
yeah,
like,
but it's
yeah,
meant to be, put the story about the baseball game, put the story about the times at the park, put the stories about the library, put the stories about the lesson on how to tie a hook onto a fishing string. Um,
a recipe or something. I don't know. Yeah.
all sorts of stories, and allowing you to also invite a family or friend to join you in collaborating in a story, to dually publish a story.
Yeah.
The To have something that, even if you have to go back to work, but to have something to keep your mind busy, to have something where you can be in a group that you feel comfortable with, obviously, those who would have been at the memorial or funeral, and to work with them in creating something that has purpose, that has meaning and intent afterwards. That purpose gives you life's pleasures and happiness. A lot of it is based off of purpose.
Yeah.
And when we
So
find purpose in what we do, that's when we find the most joy. I that's the reason why, no matter what, I've just been heads down on getting life books out, because I believe it's something that can serve as a purpose for a lot of people. And the purpose for me is to make sure that, my dad's story, of course, is shared and held. And I'm so excited to begin writing his story too, because the beta's here. It's been so much time just getting through all the bugs. I never would have found myself in the grief tech space. I was a finance major. I was planning to work for a bank. Plans change fast, but no, I'm just so excited to kind of break a new product, a new tool that I know is going to be just filled with just loving memories and just intent, purposeful intent to just share. The biggest hurdle with this type of book is that it's section sewn. So the binding is sewn into scores of pages of 20 because it has threading and section sewn binding. It is a book that will last 100 plus years. To find the manufacturer that would work with me and being able to just do one book for families. Right now for the beta, the books are $150, and that comes with the creative. So for $150,
Such a no-brainer.
8.5 by 11, section sewn. The color is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, it's so high quality. Like literally just looking at it, it looks so professional. Like what? And we just
And
like
it's got a nice matte lamination, so it's soft to touch feel. It's just I wanted to make sure that the product was just something that you want to put on the coffee table, something that you want to just have. Oh, that's my dad's book. Yeah, just open it up, read a story. And the manufacturers in the United States, I'm really excited to say that too. So yeah, US made, and but beyond that, yeah, we're really excited. It's the one manufacturing shop that in all the states that I could find that would work with us in that kind of area that we needed specifically, and do it where we can feasibly get the book out at $150 for the Lifebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, this is something that's gonna last, and like, and just you've thought of everything, obviously. So and the quality and everything is there. Talk to me a little bit about like how exactly people collaborate. So like, does one person kind of maybe like take the lead on this, and that you just like literally can invite people via email? Like, how does that process work?
So the online platform, when you sign up, it gives you a dashboard, and the dashboard will have a section where you invite and share. So you'll be able to invite as many users as you want, and those users will have permissions to invite others too if you give it to them. And they'll be invited to your dashboard, your group name. We'll call it the Jacobson Group Dashboard. And from there, you go into your creative, and it's just a simple Grammarly text window. And you type, write, add photos, and there's an invite to contribute tab.
And honestly, if there are people that are not very tech savvy, I'm thinking of some family members of mine that would be like, what am I doing? It sounds really easy. And it sounds like it's something that even the least tech savvy person could get in there and do. It's not an overcomplicated process.
For those listening, yeah, it's as simple as a text editor that you type, and there's a little section on the right where you just write the user's name you want to invite, and they get an email notification to join you in a story, and they'll hop in and they'll see your writing above, and they'll just start typing below.
Hey, my friend, are you needing some relief from your grief? If so, I have an exciting new offering that will help you get exactly that. My 14-day Relief in Your Grief challenge brings you powerful, impactful, bite-sized daily content alongside the perfect meditation. One of the biggest struggles I hear from my members, clients, and people on social media is that they just need some relief from the stress, sadness, and pain that grief and loss can cause. But here's the thing. So many people are lost and unsure about where to start. This can feel like a huge thing to tackle, so we are doing it together, and we're starting with just 14 days. Give me 2 weeks and I will help you begin to take that anxiety, heartache, and anguish and turn it into peace, clarity, and hope as you move forward with your grief. Seriously, what do you have to lose by joining? Challenge your grief and give yourself some relief, my friend. I have no doubt this 14 days will be an inspiring, uplifting, perspective-changing experience for you. Join now through the link in the show description.
the issue with scrapbooks, and scrapbooks are big after a loved one has passed away, but they're uni perspective. There's one person doing the scrapbooking, and
Mhm.
how, put that all on one person, that's a lot. And
Yeah.
then two, you get more when more people get involved. It's very easy to invite users to contribute. It's very easy to use this rephrase tool, which is a little AI. We didn't want to use GPT and let anyone just let it write for you. So rephrases, Lifebooks Assist rephrase works simply. You just highlight 2 to 3 sentences that you'd like to have sharpened up or refined in some way, and you highlight it and click the rephrase button that appears. And then from there, 5 prompted responses will issue out for you to click from. And if you find one that suits your writing style, just click and it'll drop and replace your text with that. So you can kind of spoof up your writing along the way. That way, if you feel a little bit like, I don't know if I'm the best writer, like me, I don't know if I'm the best writer, I'm going to
Yeah.
be using rephrase a lot just to heighten my writing.
Awesome.
But
What a
yeah,
cool use of AI. I know I've thoughts and feelings about AI, but that's a very clever way of using it.
just to limit it.
Yeah, yeah. Give it a little power without giving it all the power. Yeah, I like
Exactly, exactly.
it.
No, yeah, no, just so excited, though, that this is finally coming out and available, and for my family to just kind of begin in this beta process and making my dad's book as well. I've already felt in the process of doing this how rewarding and how fulfilling it's felt, knowing that I'm gonna have this tangible book of my dad. Um,
Very
so
cathartic. I really, again, I resonate, and this is why I really wanted to have you on because and you, again, like you said, you don't have to be the most amazing writer in the world, but I resonate with this because that's how I started Losses Become Gains. Like I just, in my, throughout my grieving journey, I was like, I had known I wanted to start a blog for a while, but I didn't want it to just necessarily be like me writing about like what I'm wearing and eating every day. Not that no shade to those people who do that. That's wonderful. I love reading blogs like that. It wasn't, I was like, I feel like I'm meant to do something else with this. And then I kind of had this aha moment one day where I'm like, I'm going to start writing about not only just my parents, but like my grieving journey and grieving tools and tips and just things that I've sort of learned along the way. And then it kind of just evolved from there. So I think just writing and can be very cathartic. And I will also mention, and speaking kind of more for myself, and I'm actually curious about your thoughts on this, Matt, being a few years out now from losing our parents, like I feel like a lot of people might get worried that they might forget things or things might just like randomly pop in your head. Like there are randomly times where I might like remember something my parents said or a story or something like that. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to forget that. But I've definitely in this like 3 to 4-ish year mark, I've had these moments where I kind of worried that I'm gonna forget things or I'm just like, oh, was that like really one of my memories or did I see that in like a family video and that's how I'm remembering it? Like, and just these sort of random thoughts and
it,
memories and stuff. So this is just another way that you can really preserve that without feeling pressure to like have to remember everything. It's going to be there.
yeah, it seems like those memories, you think maybe in time they might fade away, but there are moments where you find yourself in deep thought, and you kind of go along that path of memories, and you can really pull them out to the surface. Now that, to me, life books, a lot of times I want to go straight into the memories. I want to go straight into it, and I'm hoping can kind of use that as a tool to hold on to that, because I always ask myself when I go to my dad's funeral, when I go to his burial site, I don't go often, but when I do go, I always ask myself, am I going to cry?
Mhm.
And without surprise, I always do.
Yeah,
And I'm
sure.
always worried, though, if I'm ever not going to cry. Uh,
Yeah.
is there going to be a day where I'm not crying, where it just feels like he's gone? Uh, I haven't even come close to that, but it is it is a thought, and I think it transcribes to what you had said in terms of memories and just kind of that feeling dissipating, and having the life books being a book, something physical, tangible, that nostalgia. That way, I don't have to go to the burial site. I don't have, wherever I leave, wherever I travel. I don't live in the state anymore. Perhaps I still have something to carry with me. Uh,
Yeah.
that's also where it's played course of purpose, because not everyone lives where their loved ones were buried, and
Yep.
not everyone has that connection anymore. So there's something there. Yeah, I'm very grateful that you've seen so much into life books uh and its purpose. I really, again, I appreciate coming on here and
Oh,
sharing everything. It's been really fruitful.
you're
The
welcome.
conversation, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, and really, I had a thought just as you were talking, just to kind of start wrapping up this episode. Like, I resonate with just the sharing it with everyone else too, because I also feel like we get to know our loved ones in ways that we maybe didn't know them. So like what you were sharing at the beginning of the episode, where it was like, or especially like with your dad, you like they had a relationship with you and maybe with your siblings, but then their siblings and other people. And so like the way for I think of this as with my parents, like the way that my aunts and uncles, like their siblings knew them is not the way that I knew them and vice versa. And so I think it's really fun. I've spoken to family members who of course are very close with my parents over the years, and they will share stories or they'll share things that they've said or whatever. And I'm like, that's so funny. That doesn't even sound like my dad, or that doesn't even sound, like my mom did that. She did what? Like, and it's so fun. And so I just want to encourage everyone, like, yes, of course, part of this process can be sad. It can be bittersweet. It can maybe even be shocking if you read a story that you're like, wow, I hadn't heard that one before. But it's a way to keep the memory alive, and it's just a way to like get to know our loved ones even after they die, and like you said, keeping that alive. And I really, again, I think this is so timely, especially, in my case, I welcomed my daughter 6 months ago. She's not going to know my parents, unfortunately. She'll never meet them. And I feel an immense responsibility, especially because I'm an only child, that I have to keep them alive. She has no one to do that for her. She's not going to hear, I mean, other than like other family members of mine she might talk to when she's older, she'll never know my parents other than what I can share with her or through, some videos and things like that. But to have that written word and to have, a journal, or in this case, a life book, for her to like look back on, like I'm doing a little baby journal for her right now so she can know my thoughts now in the moment as I'm, raising her. And that's very important. And I really just think what you've created here is just going to resonate with so many listeners. It's not only does it, like, technically speaking, solve so many problems and so many things that we might worry about, like I said, forgetting those memories, how are we going to share it, taking some of the pressure off of sharing. But again, you've really done your due diligence to make sure it is literally going to last and it's not going to, like, if you have a little kid, they're not going to break it apart. Like, this thing is really high quality. It's worth every penny. You can't put a price on memories as far as I'm concerned, especially not where.
I mean, I don't think the funeral industry has flowers at a funeral would cost you $200+. It's a
Yeah.
it's not it didn't make sense to me. So you don't have to commit to anything, but to try it out, invite family and friends. And yeah, it's just at the end for the print, just another $125 to fill the 150 price. And then you get a hardbound commemorative memorial book with all your family's contributions. And it's delivered in a nice enclosure box for safekeeping.
Beautiful. Yeah, it really does look so, so nice. And yeah, you guys have done a beautiful job.
Awesome. Oh, and there's one more feature I didn't mention for kids to contribute. Those who wouldn't, or those who aren't very literal. There's artistic expression. So any photos or drawings, you'll be able to capture and have those published in the book as well. So
Oh,
that way
that's so
everyone can.
cool. So
So
a little
that's
5-year-old can contribute their scribblings or
yeah. Basically, we'll put them in. We'll put them in.
yeah,
Everyone's welcome.
looking for people of all ages. Yeah.
Like,
So cool. Okay, well, I want to just ask one question because again, again, I so appreciate everything you are doing with Lifebooks. I think it is amazing what you've done, just this journey to get here. But everyone here listening knows the grieving journey. I don't even want to call it a journey anymore. Grieving experience, whatever. It doesn't really end. Is there maybe just like one or two tips or pieces of guidance or just words of wisdom that you would leave listeners with today of just in their grieving experience, anything that's maybe helped you along the way. Obviously, writing is there's creative outlets, obviously, is a big one for you. But what would you say to anyone here listening who's maybe just having a tough time with their grief?
I think my healing process has been two parts.
Hmm.
One, as Tara mentioned, you go back to work and you're busy, but some of that keeps you at ease because you're in routine and you're doing things that kind of give you a sense of reward and you're in a routine. So staying busy in a productive manner, whatever that is, get up, put on clothes, go to the gym, go for a walk, always be action, always move.
Helps
Oh,
keep you.
never sit still because that's when the waves come over. Move like a shark, always stay active, and then with that you'll find purpose. And when you find purpose, hold on to that and move with that.
Into
It's
that.
difficult, it's a redefining of yourself, and I think in that you have to stay moving and busy so that you learn and grow, and you have to keep your ears open so you find what it is that you're supposed to do in this world. That'd be my advice.
That's beautiful. Oh my God, mic drop. What a powerful statement. Yeah, I think you're a beautiful example of this. I humbly like to consider myself an example of this, where you just never know where your grief could lead you. I never thought I would have a podcast about grief where I talk about grief and death and dead people all day, but like here we are, and look, we can still smile about it, we can laugh about it, we can
Absolutely.
create beautiful things and have amazing conversations and meet amazing people. So I am so grateful for you coming on today. Thank you so much for sharing your story and life books and everything with everyone. Like I said, all of your links and things will be in the show notes, but where can people maybe get in touch with you if they have more questions? How can they follow along? All the good things.
If you want to check out the website, lifebooks.io, and then my personal email is mattjacobson@lifebooks.io, or you can reach out through our support, but I'll be on the other line. As the founder of a startup, it's all hands on deck. So I'm happy to help any which way I can, answer any questions, especially technical issues. I'm here to help. I hope that it is intuitive and easy to use for all ages and, everyone. I'm happy to have you on board. Anyone have any questions, reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you today. I'm very, very grateful you joined us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am sending you a huge thank you for tuning into today's episode, my friend. I'm so grateful you're here and for the steps you are taking to heal your heart, open your mind, fulfill your soul, learn, grow, and evolve, and move through this crazy thing called life in big, beautiful, impactful ways. Visit lossesbecomegains.com for my blog, ways to work with me, to shop my daily journal, and so much more. And be sure you're following along on Instagram and Facebook at Life with Grief Podcast. I love seeing new faces, meeting new people, hearing your stories, and supporting you however I can. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you haven't left a rating or review, please do so. I would so appreciate it. Or if you feel so inclined, to share this episode or this podcast with someone who could use it too. I'll catch you in the next episode.